we're locking her back up. And for 2 months now, she's been back in jail while all of the fight to get her out has continued at reconsideration at the trial court level, denied. And you'll find this interesting. I had not seen it before, but in Massachusetts, when you go to appeal to the SJC there, the Supreme Judicial Court, you can have a single justice review as opposed to the whole panel. Okay. So they did that, and they lost. That was Justice Dewar. She was the one that decided that, no, the trial court was correct. Then you get to appeal to the full panel. And unlike SCOTUS, where it's far less likely you're getting in, 5,000 requests each year to the Supreme Court, and only, 100 are actually heard. At the SJC full panel request, the default is almost, we'll hear the case. They agreed to hear the case. And it has now been scheduled. The briefing has come out. The petitioner filed Monday. It will be the 20th when the respondent, Commonwealth, needs to file. And then just today, and I'll put this up for the folks so they can see it on the docket here, at the very bottom, let me see if I can make that a little bit easier to read. Let's see. Come on, a little bit. I'll just read it to you. Notice, this is from today, number 14 on the docket. This matter shall be submitted for the court's consideration on the papers filed by the parties on December 3, and then it says it's cut off there, but it's 2025. The reason that's an issue, Bob, and the reason I want to get your take on this is a request for hearing, in-person hearing was made, as well as a request for oral argument. That, from my reading, makes it sound like that ain't going to happen. What's your reading on that? Would you agree with that?
I would. As to what they're going to have an actual hearing on it?
Yeah, oral hearing and in-person hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, again, I would just imagine that Massachusetts would be very similar to Jersey, and you're not getting a lot of hearings on things of this nature in preliminary stages. Again, courts completely overwhelmed. There's extraordinary deference given to the trial court at this juncture of the proceedings. And while we can say people are presumed innocent, it doesn't feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, and this is, because we're not even getting to the merits of the case. This is all about the probation, conditions of release, how the judge handled it. And critical to this is it was recorded, but not videotaped. So you can hear it, and it's outrageous what this judge doesn't do, interrupts the attorneys who are trying to craft a remedy, interrupts, overrules effectively the probation officer's argument and help, saying she never violated. This is not a question of violating her conditions. We're not here on a violation. We're being proactive, saying, can we do something in the alternative? So the request to do urine testing, others, they just get muddled in this very brisk, gruff. I've never seen a judge act like it. She literally stormed off the bench in the middle of counsel's argument to get her to reconsider, because she immediately revoked bail. And Kelsey Fitzsimmon, you can hear her, crying in the end of this audio tape, because they haul her off right then. Nothing anybody expected. Nobody can figure out the motivation of this judge to do it, because you would think their goal would be to, craft whatever is the best remedy. But this is also a judge, and tell me if you've ever heard this before. She needed another surgery. Kelsey Fitzsimmon, she got 2 surgeries in the 53 days. She needed another one, less life-saving, but critical. And the judge wouldn't let them remove the ankle monitor to do the surgery.
Yeah, no, I just got done defending the judiciary.
I know, that's okay. That's all right, because I will not.
No, but I did say 30 years of critiquing them. And one of the biggest critiques that I do have is kind of sounding like, and I'm not looking at all the documents, I'm not listening to I'm taking your analysis of it, which I trust, knowing you for all these years, and your accuracy and acuity towards facts and not hyperbole when you're delivering facts, is the biggest problem that I have with the judiciary, and that's their temperamental unfitness, at least by how I see it. I don't care as a litigant why you're the way you are on the bench, whether you're having people have a bad day, and people, you don't know what they're going through until you walk a mile on somebody's moccasins. I get all that. I'm a mindset coach. I lecture on mindset. But the point is, when you put those robes on and you go on that bench, you're dealing with human beings' lives, and you got to put that stuff aside. But one of the biggest problems I have with the judges is the temperamental, the cutting lawyers off, the disrespect, the not listening. There's nothing worse as a lawyer than when you think that you're passionate about an argument and there's a court cutting you off at the knees, being disrespectful to you, exerting unnecessary pressure. And then on the other hand, you have all these bar committees that are out there talking about attorney wellness. And I've always said 90% of the attorney wellness issues, with all due respect to my judicial colleagues, many of whom I love and, whatever, from the bench, they're just not doing justice, right? And so when you're acting that way, maybe your decision is correct legally, but it doesn't appear that way to the public and to the people who are being affected by it because of your temperament. And I that sounds like what you're dealing with here. Now, 90% of the judges are temperamentally very fit. But when you have the 1% or 2, I mean, there are judges I go before and I just like, what judge is it? And you just shake your head because you just know that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're going to be in for a humiliating, painful, disrespectful, unjudicial, or lack of judicial perspective experience. And what bothers me in all these years is that all the other judges that are empowered to change this, all the other parts of the system that are in place that can change this, nary do they ever act until something catastrophic happens. We have an epic judge in Jersey that was like this. And it was after she used to send lawyers home crying in tears. I mean, abusive. Everyone knew it, but nobody did anything about it. So I don't know, Michael, other than to say it's unfortunate, even irrespective of the ruling, if it appears as if they're not letting lawyers finish their sentence, they're disrespectful, then it's literally eating the judicial system's integrity because people cannot feel, I'm sorry for being choppy with this, can't feel that it's being done for the right reasons as opposed to a personality issue.
Yeah, and I try to be. I'm not into judge bashing. I call it like I see it. I think I'm being very objective when I listen to that and I see the result of what this judge did, and I just keep asking why. What was the motivation? The goal was to get her back in jail. Why?
Yeah, well, there's another thing too, and this is my problem with prosecutors, and this I could talk to all day long, because I was one. Is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I find myself pining for the days of old where my 93-year-old dad, who's still a lawyer, and I grew up with icons in the field, icons of trial lawyers. These guys didn't play. They were charismatic. They were smart. They were street smart. They were great in a courtroom. They were I would sit there and watch in amazement. Yet they had strong compassion, sense of justice, sense of balance. They didn't see things in black and white, that you're on the good side or the bad side. They were able to take concept issues and work in the gray. And I found that when I was the prosecutor, that I was constantly saying to my younger prosecutors that your job is not to hit flies with sledgehammers. That's a phrase I would use all of the time. Just because you have a sledgehammer doesn't mean you need to hit that fly with it. Okay, we have lots of tools. So are you really achieving a just result with a person who's got, look, as a prosecutor, I want to make sure she's not going to commit any kind of other crime or she's not a danger to herself or to the community. But are there ways of achieving that? Can you take an ankle bracelet off for somebody who's got to go for a medical procedure? Is it really that necessary that you can't use your common sense? Is this person going to really run away? Is it documented? Are there alternatives? Take the time. Here's my advice to you judges and you prosecutors out there. Take the time to understand the collateral consequences, even of the people that you're prosecuting and what they're going through, that they're human beings as well, and do what you can to judge their conduct and not them as people. And then you'll have a different prism with which you can make decisions to accommodate as best as you can. Because as a prosecutor, my last point, sorry, I'm on my soapbox. My last point as a prosecutor is, trust me, for you that are out there that are listening, when you are on your deathbed, and someday you will be more proud of those people's lives that you gave breaks to, those people that you rehabilitated, those people whose lives you made better, as much as and as equally satisfying as those that committed horrific acts that you put away for as long as humanly possible. So I feel that there's probably prosecutors could do a lot here, Michael, to eradicate this issue that this temperamental judge does not have to even get involved.
Sorry, you'll find this interesting then on the prosecutor front. Prosecutor Gubitosi, excuse me, I just sneezed there. Gubitosi, he didn't say much during this hearing. You have the probation officer, Mr. January, who is laying out and clearly trying to help Kelsey Fitzsimmons, clearly trying to reinforce that she didn't do anything wrong. She had trouble taking the test, but she continued until she succeeded. But why are we putting her through that? The judge he said something like, we don't determine that to be non-compliant. The judge says, well, you might not, but that's not your decision. That's my decision. I mean, just really an asshole. And so the prosecutor was just very mousy about it when she was asking him, are you on board with me? He was not really. He was just non-committal in terms of help. Certainly, he wasn't going to go out of his way to help the defense, but he sure didn't side with the judge either. And until they got to the written papers with the various appeals, and then all of a sudden it was, they were clutching their pearls about how horrible it was that this defendant even thought about being out of jail. Didn't happen. So one more thought about the judge. I just, when I watch it or listen to it, and I've listened to it many times, and I run the possible scenarios through my brain, it just makes you wonder, why would she be so motivated to do that when I know you talked about the judicial, the demeanor and what they bring to the mix, but it's almost like I'd rather have a judge that is checked out than one that seems to be malicious.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what motivates that person.
Yeah, listen, I mean, here's a big FYI, right? Get ready for the curtain to be pulled down. This is a great moment. Drum roll, please. Just because they get appointed to be a judge and they put black robes on doesn't make them any better than anyone else. And, we consent as lawyers in the judiciary to have somebody call balls and strikes, and that's the judge. And even if we don't agree with them, but that does not give them the right to be temperamentally unfit, nasty, and AHs, on the bench. And you have them. You have people who are enjoy the abuse of power because they can, and they can demean people. Now, they're small people. These are weak people, but fire needs to be fought with fire. And when I was prosecutor, if one of my assistant prosecutors came to me, and the judge can disagree and say, no, that's my call, but you talk to my prosecutor disrespectfully, you were going to get a visit from the county prosecutor to talk about, you will treat my lawyers with respect. I'm not asking that you do everything that they say by any stretch of the imagination, but you will not treat them disrespectfully, or I will take action. And so I would prevail upon that assistant district attorney, or whatever they call them out there, their boss, as well as, everyone's afraid to file judicial conduct complaints. Okay, so maybe the legal ruling was correct, but, there is a judicial review board that's out there. And I would hope that the defense and the prosecution, I understand it's a little Pollyannic, would get together and say, this needs to be addressed. But here's the thing, last point, Michael, to the Massachusetts, you said, okay, you know what? Listen, judges out there in Massachusetts, whoever's watching this great show, all right, you know who this judge is. You don't have to wait for a complaint to be filed by litigants, because litigants are afraid if they file a complaint against a judge that they're going to have a negative reaction brought against them. It's a very legitimate concern. But just like internal affairs with police departments, which I used to run, you don't have to wait for somebody to file a complaint for you to investigate if you become aware of police misconduct, nor should you for judicial conduct. Where are the rest of the judges? Cowards. Just because you're not doing it doesn't mean that you shouldn't bring it forward and help people who are being abused by these very few minority of judges that are temperamentally unfit.
Yeah, and this is Essex County, and I will say that I was up for the family and probate court right around the corner from where this happened for a hearing related to Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Her baby daddy just wants to take the equity from a home that he doesn't own because he has the baby now, and he says, I need that for child support, blah, blah, blah. That judge, Judge Barry Black, great demeanor, took the time, came up with what I think is the right decision. So I'm not painting with a broad brush here. I'm laser focused on those that are clearly in the wrong job. And so One other thing to point out, and I've said this before, I appreciate when attorneys feel like they kind of have to gild the lily a little bit and be nicer because I might have to appear in front of Judge X, Y, or Z again. Screw that. I don't care. Who are you working for? Who deserves your full undivided attention and loyalty? I'm not kissing the ass of a judge just because someday I might appear in a bigger case in front of that judge. You got to call them out if it's deserved. And in this case, I think it's deserved. And